Well, by popular request, people have asked us to do content, so I just thought we, just spit off some of the things that drive us crazy. And
I feel like this is going to be a lot.
yeah, it's true. One thing that we'll just get right into it. So, welcome to Black Sheep Thinking's podcast with Andrew
It's me.
and Morgan, also me. Jokes aside, we hope you find value in this. Thanks for listening. Today's talk will be about toxic positivity. We'll be about a lot of things, stuff that drives us crazy. But we thought we'd start off with the concept of hustle culture.
Hustle culture, yeah. That's a good one. That's a big, I've mentioned in one of my other videos about how it's, that's become the big thing, right? It's like the hustle and grind and wake up at 5 a.m. and bust your ass and...
Yeah, no shade on Robin Sharma, but the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
We've done 5 a.m. before. I mean, we've gone to bed at that time.
Yeah, I actually used to commit. Remember, I used to commit like every day. I was up at like 4:30 and I'd go to the gym for 5. And
yeah, I've never done that.
yeah, and I was like, I just believed it was going to make my life better. And I mean, I was more physically fit, but I mean, by 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, I was exhausted and I just wanted to go to bed. But I like being a night owl. Like, I mean, it's what, 9 o'clock, 9:30 now.
Yeah.
And I love that, staying up late and working late into the wee hours of the night and the morning.
Yeah, especially when you have family. Like, sometimes that's the only time we get. It's like our friend Marcus said, it's like people who stay up late are trying to steal back time to give to others during the day. But I find like life settles around this time. So, kids are in bed, work is done, phone's not ringing the same way. But I mean, so it's not so much a time thing for me. For me, hustle culture, when I guess to go back, I really loved, just like you did for a while, we loved Tony Robbins and I loved Eric Thomas. When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe.
The motivation.
Kevin O'Leary and I spent time together, and he's like, make sure you marry someone that knows money's the most important thing because money solves all problems. It was really pushed. So this self-help in the last generation has really been like work, hustle, grind. I even read last night, actually, I never told you this, some guy put a post, and I was going to write, and I thought,
Yeah.
But he was like, if you're not, people want life to happen, but you got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to outwork everybody. You can't just let life come to you. And and that's the problem. There's an element of truth in hustle culture. Like, yeah, you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, stagnation is also not good.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the hustle culture is, and I mean, Eric Thomas talked about 50 Cent saying that sleep is for those who don't have a dream, and Beyonce forgot to eat. I'm like, these are really unhealthy things, and for what? The chase of money.
Yeah.
And so a couple questions we like ask is, if you were to accomplish all that, what do you think? That hustle, that grind to get, like, what are you running after?
Yeah, where are you trying to get? What's the pursuit?
What was your pursuit?
For me, the pursuit was money.
Yeah.
That's always been the...
I think that's what the hustle culture really is about, money.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever like... I mean, they might have a bigger vision and stuff like that, but just to cut that off really quick,
Yeah.
anyone who's hustling like that for a dream, it's like, it is not a sprint.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon. Actually, that's one thing that you've taught me really well, that I'm grateful for having you in my life for, is that it's not about making more so you can spend more. It's about understanding what you have and how to manage that properly, and then cut back on the things in life that you don't really need.
Right.
Like the impulse buys that I used to always have of just like, it feels good in the moment, so I'll buy it because it feels good. It's delayed gratification.
Right. And my friend Andy used to say people sacrifice what they want for right now, for what they sacrifice what they really want for what they want right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I really want to go on a trip, but they spend $300 a month at Starbucks and don't understand in 4 months that would be enough to pay for your ticket. And so, pardon me. So that, that kind of hustle and that kind of grind for more money. And you've heard me talk about it before when I worked in finance, like, no matter how much someone had in the bank I was sitting across from, I'd be like, wow, you must feel really secure at your age. And they'd be like, no, I want more. So like 3 million wanted 6 wanted 12 wanted 24. And there's just like was no end. And so what people are really chasing is consumption. And as you were alluding to, one of the first kind of things I put out in my talks was like the opposite of scarcity, which is where most people sit, is not is abundance, is what they said. But abundance, I think, is a fancy word for greed. What I don't want to work on either end of the spectrum. We don't work on spectrum ends. We want to always help people be balanced, and we believe that's prosperity. Yeah. So I mean, find what you want in life, and there's nothing wrong with chasing goals. I mean, I use that word lightly. I say aspirations, but there's nothing wrong with having a vision towards
Having something that you want to accomplish,
as long as you're not attached to it as your identity.
And that's why that's where it comes down to. Yeah. It's you mentioned something there about always going for more, and I had the consumption race, and I remember because I never had friends that had money when I was young. And then I got to an age where I started to make friends with those people, and I thought, oh, these people must be super secure in their lives, and they must just feel that sense of security. And then you get to know people that have money, and some of those people that I got to know, there still wasn't that sense of security. They always felt like any day could be the day they lose it all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I actually went through that phase where, I also grew up with, I used to say we were poor, my mom said we were working class.
Yeah.
Talk about language twist. But like, and when I started working in finance and started creating a little bit of security and getting rid of some debt and all the stuff you're supposed to do with your money, I worried about money.
Yeah.
And that's when I met a man in town who took me out for beer and said, when I had no money, I worried about it. And then I made some money and I worried about it. When will this feeling go away? And was talking about how he just started to work with faith of it will in creation. And I think that's the thing. That's what we go to is like, this hustle culture is about more. And the problem is that even professional athletes, like one thing, people, I refer to LeBron often these days, but LeBron James has had a long career, and people knock him for averaging, 70. I think he averages like 73 or 72 games, 74 games a year out of 82. So he misses like I'd say 10 games a year. He misses. Yeah. But meanwhile, guys like Jordan, Larry Bird, when you look at their average, Larry Bird only played 69 games a year, but he had a short career.
Yeah.
Because he was injured. Why? Because he played so hard. He didn't rest. Pro athletes know that they can work out really hard, and LeBron trains like a Navy SEAL in the off season, and that's why he's played so long. But then he rests.
Yeah, the rest is so important. The rest is so important.
And people don't know when to slow down.
Well, and that's the other thing about rest, and I've talked to clients about this too, is it's not real rest if you spend all your time worrying about what you're not doing.
That's a great point, Andrew.
Yeah, and I've caught a couple clients on that, and it's like, well, are you really actually resting? Yeah. If you spend all your time in worry, if you spend all your time in fretting about the fact that, oh, I'm not getting this done, because there is a time for rest to let yourself regather everything and have the energy to be able to carry on, right?
That's really valid. What insights do you want to share you have? Because that's a really great point. How would you help someone disconnect from? Because I've heard that a lot of times. And I think that this will resonate when people are at work, they feel bad and they're tired and they're not taking time off, and they take time off and all they're thinking about is work. How do you encourage them to disconnect from that?
Presence, I guess, is really always the way of like understand what you need in the moment. Yeah. That it's not about what's next. Yeah. What's next will come. If right now what you need in the moment is rest, then enjoy the rest. When it's time for action, then take action on the things that you need to take action on.
Right, and it goes to the worry. They worry all the time that things aren't going to work out their way.
Well, yeah, it's like you said, right? They're at work and they're worried they're not spending enough time with their family and they're not slowed down. But then in the time that they spend with their family, they're worried they're not working and they're not accomplishing.
So be where you are in the moment and presence. Let that. And presence, right? Be present in your presence.
Yeah.
And so. And the thing is, people want to blame this culture thing on society. They're like, oh, hustle culture because it's promoted. But I mean, I think I just start to feel that that's the excuse. I was saying earlier, like I was saying to Jeff today, the girl working at a retail store at the mall isn't like, man, hustle culture. She's making minimum wage, trying to bonus $100 by her sales just to pay her gas bill that's gone up.
Yeah.
And so I feel like hustle culture is like a very privileged situation. It's the wealth privilege to be like, or business owners, hustle culture. And you're only hustling for one of two reasons, in my opinion: fear or greed. Yeah. Which is really the same thing.
And I feel like social media has just blown that up so much, right? Like when people seeing, YouTubers who make ridiculous amounts of money and they're buying Lamborghinis and 3 or 4 houses and they're giving money away like crazy, which is great when you can do that, but it's creating this belief that that's what will make you happy.
That's what will free you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's that, and then there's the other people that are just afraid to end up like the people that can't afford things. I mean, I remember talking to a restaurant CEO, and he said that it was a restaurant. It was 1.8 out of 3 meals a day. That people eat out 1.8 meals and what does their pantry look like? And then the bank stats show that the average Canadian, I think, don't quote me on this, but I know it's pretty close. The average Canadian is like 2 paychecks or a month away from of not being able to feed their family.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because we'll ask clients like, and money worries is the first thing. People are like more because they think that that's where security is. And we'll talk about how to create security in a second.
Yeah.
But the more concept and the money worries, I'm like, how long could you go in paying your bills if, and the average answer is at least a year or more for most families.
Yeah.
Yet they're trying to chase this. And I want you to know that security, safety and security of that nature will never be found in a number. And what we try to help people understand is, we're not saying money's not important, and we're not saying not to work hard. We do both. We care about our finances, and we also work a lot and hard. We check each other on not burning out, because it is easy to get caught up in the helping people and service and forgetting that you exist in the formula. So we're not perfect, but to bring awareness to it is what we do, and for ourselves and others. And so when people are chasing that number, it's not that. What creates security is a number of things. One is knowing that you have competency. Some people worry about losing their job, they have to start over again. Or if they lost everything, they'd start over. Well, they wouldn't start over. They would start from experience. In other words, like if I had to restart from black sheep thinking, if we started over again, and we've joked around about that, or even talked about what would it look like, it wouldn't take us years. It would take us months, because we've already made the mistakes.
Got the experience to get
we
there
know what
already.
worked and what we want to do, and a little bit more clarity. Sometimes, it's why so many successful people have declared bankruptcy. We've named a number of celebrities: Simon Cowell and a bunch of other, Donald Trump, probably not a great name to name, but they declared bankruptcy. Michael Jackson had a process. He ended with money, even though people don't know that. Lots of people have made mistakes or decisions or taken risks and then rebuilt faster to great success. And so if you're afraid of rebuilding and starting from zero, you're actually afraid to grow. That's number one. Number two I want to share is it takes work ethic, intelligence, and character to be successful. And most people have work ethic and intelligence, one or the other, or both. And I think the world is filled and littered with people who work hard and are relatively smart, but character is the thing missing. So for a lot of people, they don't realize that intent and being able to communicate that character is really important, and to work on your character. And if you're not sure about that, that's one reason to work with a coach, or to do some work on your character, which is integrity and being caring and kind. It's really basic stuff that we'd see from children, but we forget it over time. And money, the fear of not having, it changes people.
Yeah.
Changes people. I ask a lot of people who are like, I would never do anything wrong to people. I'm like, would you ever steal from me? No. What if you had to feed your family? Then yes, right. So we know that the lack, and the world right now, and most times, and any, you can say this pretty much in any time in the history, the world is changing, and there's a lack of or concern of lack of resources and all this stuff. And I want people to know that they can't control the outside, but we can influence it with understanding that you can create whatever you need. But hustle culture is such a shitty thing to say, because it just speaks to like a certain group. It judges the self-help, which great, finally, but it created it. It created it.
Yeah,
and then
it created the
folding
need for it.
Hustle, grind.
Yeah,
hustle,
and then people
work,
are burning out and they need something to go to.
Yeah, and they're like, hustle culture. No, you bought into a dream that if you ran and got enough, that you'd finally feel happy.
Yeah.
And that is not true. Many people who...
Well, Jim Carrey says that, right? I wish everybody would get rich and famous, because they'll realize that that's not what the answer is. And so there's nothing outside. What we always explain to people is there's nothing outside of you that's ever going to bring you the feeling that you're looking for. But I liked what you said about like the rebuilding, because that's one thing I talk to my kids about all the time. When they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, well, just pick something. You can change your mind, right? Like I started out in a factory building air conditioning coils. And then I went into the trades, and I started working in the trades, and then I went into real estate, and now I'm in life coaching. Those things can change over time, and it's only your fear of whether or not you can adapt to the change that gets in your way.
And the fear that you think people are going to judge you for failing, but there is no failure. There's growth. Like we'll talk to clients about, if we build a card castle and you're not allowed to make any mistake, there's a big prize, 6-figure prize for your income. All you have to do is build the highest tower. You have to build a higher tower than me. And we get teams. We can pick our teams. You can pick all the best, but you're not allowed to make any mistakes. And I'm allowed to make as many mistakes as I want in the same time frame. And so then I ask, who will know more? And they go, well, you will. And who will win 10 out of 10 times? You will.
You will, because
Well,
you get
so-
to make the mistakes.
Right. So we know that failure is an illusion. It's growth. We're not afraid to fail. We're afraid to look like a failure. So many people won't leave their job, or they won't take a chance on being happy. And for me, very similar path in the sense, changed careers a lot. I mean, that I started off in, well, I mean, we always have the retail jobs and stuff when I was young, but like when I graduated school, it was like group homes, and I went into employment counseling, then I went into finance for years and did well, and then this jump. And in this jump, I remember it was a relationship that I was in at the time that a guy was trying to help me out. It was a friend. He said the biggest enemy of the great is not the bad, it's the good. And he was trying to say the grass is, but he was trying to talk me into staying and the grass is green on the other side. But I heard it the way we talk about it, which is the reason that I'm yearning for more is because I've settled on good, because I'm afraid that things can go bad. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid I'm not enough. And the moment I recognize that good could be my new bad, and I'd rather have nothing in my life.
Yep.
I'd rather
I'd rather go for what I really want and end up with nothing.
Jim Carrey again.
Yeah.
You can fail at what you hate,
or
take a chance on something you love.
fail at something you love. Absolutely.
And I've never seen anyone fail what they love for a number of reasons. One is like, it's not failure when you love what you do. It becomes experimenting. It becomes fun.
Well, and I think it's the story of what the success of that looks like. Like if you're not the top of your industry and you're not making the most money and you're not, then it's like, oh, I'm a failure at it. Well, but if you're loving what you do and your bills are being paid and you're in a position where you're comfortable and you're happy, then what does it matter? Like what level of success do you have to get to?
It's so true. Most people, I just heard 50 Cent say I think it was a TikTok, he was like, there are people out there that have less than many but are more successful than those.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Sorry.
Next time we record, we gotta make sure we remind you to silence your watch.
Turn this off.
And you're the one always giving me trouble for my watch.
Turn it off. There, it's off. And so, I think knowing what you need, and that goes back to this, you can have, money is not important unless we're talking about the basics.
Yeah.
And so most people, they don't budget in a way to know what they really, like what they have to spend.
Yep.
And if they have a sense of what they require, it's interesting when you look at what you really need. And when I was a financial advisor, I was like, internet's a need that is not a need for most people, like food and water. Yeah. But internet is a need today.
It is.
And you can't just stop paying your cell phone bill if you have a contract with them. You can't just stop paying your car payment. So those are needs in my mind. But when you start to see like things like how much people spend on subscription services and how they nickel and dime themselves at the dollar store and the
coffees,
and the booze and the whatever else they're having fun with, and they start eating out. If that stat we mentioned earlier, 1.8 price of eating has gone out from like used to be like a lunch for $20. Now I feel like I can't get away.
It's ridiculous.
It's getting so expensive. So when you start to see that, and you start to recognize like that you can go out for dinner, but go out once a month, not once every other day or once a week, and you start to live a better life that way, and then you can have fun. You can have, as Gail Baxley used to say, you can have everything you want, you just can't have it right away.
Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Actually, did you ever see that the marshmallow test?
No.
Oh, it's so cool. This is a real study that is worth talking about. So it's hilarious, and you should do this with Blake and Gracie.
I will.
I'll do it with Marshall.
Okay.
It's so funny. So I haven't done it, but I would love to see his response. So you put them in a room, and you give them a marshmallow, and you say, "I'm going to leave." Many people have probably seen this. It's very popular on YouTube.
I think I have seen it.
And they leave. They say, "But you can eat it. But if you don't eat it, I'll give you a second. When I come back, I'll give you a second marshmallow."
Yeah.
And so they leave. And then they watch the kids and they agonize. Some eat it right away. And it's hilarious watching their struggle.
Especially when they're little. They're like 3 or 4 years old. They're just like,
And so, but then here's what people might not know about that. That study's been around for a long time. And there was a follow-up study on people, on the youth they did when they were 15, 20 years ago. They're all adults now. These kids were 10. Now they're like 34 years old. And they looked at the studies and they said, well, the kids that could show that they could wait for the second marshmallow, what did their life, and they looked at essentially success scores, and they considered like how was their mental health, their BMI, their income, job satisfaction, relationships, all categories. So it just wasn't like how much money are you making? It was all over. And they found that those that had delayed gratification with the marshmallow also showed higher scores and success as adult. That there was a massive component of being patient.
So here's an interesting question about that, because I think this would come up in a client meeting. Can you change that? if
Oh,
you're
for
that kid,
sure.
right? Like,
For sure you can.
Yeah.
I believe in neuroplasticity. I believe that, the difference between where most coaches work is they try to train the brain, then teach it.
Yeah.
What we would tell them is that, what is, and I would say the same to adults. This goes right back to what we're talking about. If they're hustling at work, what do they think they're going to achieve if they make more money? Well, they think they're going to achieve. The answer we usually get is safety, security.
it's usually a feeling.
It's a
usually
feeling they're chasing, right?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to this. What if we can create that feeling now, knowing you already have what you're looking for? You can keep working in a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
We want you to work. We want you to achieve, take your trips. But to say, I'll be happy when, to put time frames on that feeling.
Yeah.
Happiness is our superpower. It helps us problem solve faster. Studies show that this feeling that creates clarity for us rather than fighting against.
Do you find that a common challenge you have with people is when you start to explain this to them, they think like, if I take my foot off the gas pedal, what will I accomplish?
Yes. Matter of fact, a large part of my market are those are very successful or busy entrepreneurs, and they all think, Morgan, it's really hard for them because they think, yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's for someone else because I'm really successful. I have a really big business,
and I can't slow down now. I'll lose everything.
I have a lot of people relying on me. I have employees or et cetera, all these things, and so. Arizona. I went to Arizona with that. Andrew McKee, and I said, everyone's always nervous that they're juggling all these balls, and if they start to become the feeling that, and they become presence, and they slow down, that things will fall. And I've witnessed it now that he's like, no, they'll keep all the balls up in the air. They'll just have more fun doing it.
Right.
And when you are clarity, people. Think about all the energy, the freeing up the bandwidth, how that would help your business. If I'm in this place of presence and working and I get 4 hours like that versus your 6, but you spend half of it panicking, freaking out, making yourself sick, burning out, going to the bar afterwards, have a drink because you had a hard day, not seeing your family, smashing back 15 coffees because you're trying to stay alert, whatever other self-medication, how can that be a better life?
Yeah.
I'm getting more out of my time. And I'm more problem solving, I'm more presence, I'm more laughing, and I'm living the life I want. So I let go of the identity of work, and these people start to do that. They realize work is what I do, not what I am.
Yeah.
This is part of my experience. I don't need to. It would be like going home and being like, I got to be the best cook, and I got to be the best. And like, relax. Like, you can be the best at things, but I wouldn't know how you measure that. But I think the best version of you is the one that's happy, healthy, and present to the experience, and then you can put your full. But if you're worried about something or you're stressed, you're not in that moment. Part of you is elsewhere, and then you can't be your best.
Yeah,
you can't be.
There's no way to be your best when you're not in the present moment.
Yeah, but for sure they worry about that they're going to drop the ball, and it's very challenging to be like, I know that you're more successful than the average bear.
Yeah, it's getting them to take that step.
They've hit a ceiling, and they don't want to. And it's scary because it's like, but I'm almost there, and I get it because you're like, I'm so close to what I want. And you're like, but this is it.
There's what is that going to give you? Well, and then it comes back to that, right? Yeah. When you get that, what's that going to give you?
What does it do for you if you get it? You're like, I'll feel safe. I'm like, will you? Because there was a version of you, and I'll say there was a version of you years ago.
That wanted what you have now.
That wanted what you have now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? And they're like, oh, you're right. I'm like, right. Is it the feeling you thought? No. So it's like a real illusion, that you think that you're going to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And I know personally, in my own experience, like I never had to get to that, top 1%, like a millionaire. I started realizing the path was, okay, I had nothing. I have a lot more than I ever thought I ever was imaginable as a young man. I thought, wow, now, why don't I feel any different? Oh, because
it's funny that you say top 1% because the top 1% are worldwide. To be in the top 1% worldwide financially, it's like $38,000 a year you have to make or something like that.
Right.
Like it's not.
Right, it's not a lot.
People think, I'm in the top 1% because I make $1 million. Well, you're actually beyond that.
There goes our area. Our local area. I remember. I think the average income in the YGK area was like, for a couple, it was like 125 or something, and combined, or 140 as a combined couple. Yeah. The people, high incomes in the area, people do well.
Yeah.
But yet it's never enough.
It's never enough. It's never enough. Always need more.
Yeah.
Always need more.
Yeah, the sense of, and that was one thing is like, I recognize is like entitlement isn't just not working and expecting something to happen. That was never my issue. I was always, really focused on work and help and whatever. But until I learn to balance the way things are.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, right? Like entitlement can be when you work hard and you believe you deserve it.
Yeah, I worked hard for this. Why is it not working? And getting frustrated with, why don't people see me? And I hear that a lot from people. It's like, I do so much and no one's paying attention to what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, that's because you're doing it for the reason of being seen. And I've been there where I'm like, because you're trying to win favor, you want to be successful. Like, well, I'm successful, and you get convinced. And I do believe there's an element of society and social media, but you have to buy into that as the way, and it's okay. And it's like what I said earlier when we were talking about. I said there's a big difference between trying something and realizing it doesn't work.
Yep.
And then just the commitment to this is the way, even though it's not working.
Yeah, and then it becoming a part of your identity, and when it doesn't work, it just tears you to pieces.
And you're not willing to let it go. And you're like, let it go. You're hurting yourself. You know?
I can remember myself even being like that with like vehicles, when I'd have a vehicle and it would break down and I'd be so destroyed by it, right? Like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, or it's just something for me to work on, right? Like, it's like, so what? This isn't me. This isn't a part of who I am. It's just a vehicle.
Yeah, I struggle with it. Still happens. We still face things where you're like, this is the whole thing. You're like, no, this is just part of it.
I think recently I was just there and you're like, yeah, okay.
You'll be fine.
You'll be all right. You'll get out. You'll get out of it.
Yeah, I really developed recently, like in the last six months, this like, how many times are you going to catastrophize on something rather than, it's okay. I think having, a child where it's like you realize it is okay.
It is.
There's some things that, I don't know how to overcome, when it comes to like loss, and I don't mean just like loss of friendships. I mean like death and illness for people, which is tough to witness for people. I know that, but when it comes to most things in life, like, that are outside of us, like houses and cars, it's like, well, what if we lost our home? What would happen? Yeah. Like someone said, what if I lost my job? What would happen? Well, I guess I get a new one. Yeah. And what if you didn't like it? Well, I get a new one. What if your house, you lost your home? I guess we just move into a part. Like they always know, but so it's like what they're facing is really their own judgment or the fear of someone else judging.
The fear of the unknown.
It just goes back to what we always say is like the cool thing about this, what we've been able to do in our friendship is like just remind each other of like, kind of a one day at a time, and you'll be okay, and how to hold space for people, but also how to support them.
Yeah, man, I'm really grateful for that.
You too, man. And because there's been times in our early in our coaching thing where I thought I wasn't sure which direction is going, or somebody would say something about and I would be worried that it's not. But and it's weird. No matter how many times we metaphorically climbed a mountain together and helped people and witnessed it, would they'd always be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we can help people. And it's like, and so now it's just getting to the point where we want people to hear, not what we have to say is like a dogma or, to make it think like we know everything, but we did experience something in both of our lives independently, and we've witnessed it in many people. That if you can just take a second to realize that you're scaring the hell out of yourself and you're fearing not having money, or you believe the answer is on the internet, and that's what I think we'll talk about in this second part of our conversation is like, what are people seeing and what frustrates us the most, and our voice not being heard, and why we started doing this, because we're watching so many people get misled. And so if you're worried about money and you're worried about hustle culture, just realize that fast is slow and slow is fast, and to really realize that you're working to create a life, and ask yourself, is this hustle taking away from the life you want, or is it adding? And so we prioritize experiences, we prioritize family, we prioritize rest, and we're in demand. There's a lot of people asking for our time. We want to be there for people, and we are, but we have to be there for ourselves first, and 100%. We try to reinforce that with each other. And when we don't, that's where we are lucky to have each other. And if you don't have someone like that, we're willing to have a conversation with you about how maybe we can be that person for a while until you learn to be there for yourself. Thanks for joining us today for their first podcast, I guess, really. And I look forward to talking to you in our second one about how those things out there might be misleading you to make you lose hope. And until then, have a great week, and thanks for being a black sheep today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Peace.